It's always the fans' fault when it comes to a show receiving some sort of criticism, whether that criticism is a lot or not. It's always the fans' fault. It's never the company's fault when it comes to them hiring individuals that don't care about the lore or individuals that have worked with controversial figures such as Harvey Weinstein, aka Leslie Headland. None of that is ever covered, which always brings me as to why, if many of these articles are often paid out by Disney. More than likely, that is the case with this one, as Disney Star Wars' biggest problem is the fans. No, it's not the fans, it's the crappy quality content that we continue to get from Disney Star Wars. Let's look at Andor, for example. The vast majority of the viewership for that show, although it wasn't a big success when it comes to viewership numbers, everyone liked it. The vast majority of the population liked that show who watched it. Whereas with The Acolyte, it is a complete opposite. Sure, you may like the show, but just because you like it doesn't make it a success. And that's what these people don't get. And it's often this stereotype that it is the problem with the fans when it comes to crappy quality shows. And with these crappy quality shows, you often have these narratives being pushed, these agendas being pushed, diversity quotas needing to be met. It's always this kind of stuff when it comes to these crappy shows. Whereas now we're going to be reading this article by That Park Place talking about how the Canadian owned publication Collider spews racist hate and blames white male Star Wars fans for Lucasfilm's crappy TV shows like The Acolyte. Maybe you should be blaming the people that actually don't care about the lore that George Lucas created, the people that are actually working on the show and actually hate white males, such as that main actress for The Acolyte. But no, let's ignore all that and just blame the fans, right? Because that's all you guys are good for. Collider, an online website owned by Canadian corporation Valnet that runs other left-wing entertainment websites such as MovieWeb, Screen Rant, and CBR, published an article blaming Star Wars fans for Lucasfilm creating a crappy television shows such as The Acolyte. The article titled Star Wars' Biggest Problem is the Fans, written by Cameron Barnett, dismisses legitimate criticism of shows like The Acolyte. Barnett writes Leslie Headland's groundbreaking series has been relentlessly review bombed online, causing The Acolyte to possess a huge disparity between its positive critical reception and abysmal audience score on aggregate websites like Rotten Tomatoes. Since the majority of these hate filled criticisms are either overreactions to alleged continuity errors within the Star Wars universe or backlash aimed at attacking the show's long overdue inclusivity. The bad actors spreading them are clearly spitting controversy out of nothing, and this manufactured outrage can be directly traced back to the demographics of the original trilogy. And what I find ironic is that within the show, the only like white prominent male character, I guess, is Soul. But on the other hand, you have the main villain, and that being Smilo Ren. And what's funny to me is that the male character, the white male character within the show, is more liked than every single other Jedi that is in this show, especially Osha and May. No one cares about these. This is why when you have a mission or objective to include as much inclusivity, diversity, all this without actually creating good characters, aka Osha and May, that is what is going to happen. You're going to have people liking the villains more than the heroes because of the better writing that the villain is receiving. And it's also ironic that he is also white. There is nothing wrong with pointing out that the Acolyte, Lucasfilm, and the Walt Disney Company are promoting inclusivity. In fact, it is just and right given inclusivity is an evil ideology that prioritizes demonizing white men. The show also introduced a force replacement called the Thread, claimed that a pair of lesbian space witches created two twins through the thread, and as multiple Jedi discover a Sith attack, despite the Jedi believing the Sith to be extinct for over a millennia. Once again, the people that are working on the show don't actually care about the lore that was established. They don't care about George Lucas or none of that. They want to have their own lore. They want to cement their legacy within this franchise. And every time they tried to do that, whether it was through the sequel trilogy, trying to replace legacy characters such as Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, or as now with this show, trying to retcon a lot of the lore, it often fails with the mass majority of the population of the viewership. No one actually cares about this. People want the old Star Wars back, but that's something that Disney can't seem to wrap itself around. They just can't figure it out why they keep failing when it comes to this franchise known as Star Wars. From there, Barnett makes it abundantly clear that the demographic of the original trilogy are white men. Barnett pens the first film in the original trilogy, originally just titled Star Wars upon its 1977 release, was shown to the public during a decade of classic hits like Steven Spielberg's Jaws in 1975 and Rocky in 1976. This was a time when Hollywood relied almost exclusively on traditional tropes to tell stories exclusively through a Eurocentric white male lens. As we continue on, Barnett does not stop there. Despite taking place in a galaxy far, far away from the filmmaking conventions of Earth, Star Wars' original trilogy features a mostly white cast, female characters with largely unrealized potential, and no LGBTQ storylines depicted on screen. In the original trilogy, you still had non white characters that were extremely likable. You had Lando Calrissian, one of the most prominent and likable characters in the Star Wars universe. But yet they continue to ignore that because, again, there's not enough diversity apparently. And when it comes to the largely unrealized potential and that there's no LGBTQ plus storylines depicted within the original trilogy, maybe because George Lucas was trying to focus on a story that everyone could relate to and actually enjoy. Because last time I checked, the LGBTQ plus population is a minority. It's not even 10% of the main population. So why would you center or revolve your story around this LGBTQ plus agenda? Why would you do that when the vast majority of the population isn't that? Now, there's nothing wrong when it comes to creating a good character that is likable at the start, and later on you find out that they are LGBTQ plus. I don't think that's the problem. The problem is right off the get-go when you have writers that don't know how to write good characters, and they're automatically apparently LGBTQ plus right out the gate without us even getting to know the character. That's where the problem involves. And then again, a lot of these article people that write these kinds of articles don't understand what Star Wars is. They don't understand what made the original trilogy successful, and to an extent the prequel trilogy. They don't understand that. They just care about the identity politics, the narratives, the agendas that should be more prevalent within these shows. And that is what Disney is pushing. But again, they keep pushing, and this show is getting absolutely blasted because that's what's going to happen if they continue to do this. They're going to have these 14% audience rating scores on Rotten Tomatoes. That is just the way it's going to be. And with all that in mind, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.